Starting on day one, we will end inflation and make America affordable again.
Mr. President, to what extent are Americans' financial situations motivating you to make a deal?
Not even a little bit. The only thing that matters when I'm talking about Iran, they can't have a nuclear weapon. I don't think about Americans' financial situation. I don't think about anybody.
He doesn't think about Americans' financial situations. In the pantheon of presidential gaffes, this is a big one. And there's a narrative I've told you where people say, oh, Trump gets away with everything. Nobody cares. And then there's the reality that his polls are crashing, Republicans retiring, Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson saying he's, quote, evil, and they're done with him. And we're still in the beginning of this. Donald Trump's already crashed to the worst second-term approval of any president since we've been measuring. And comments like this obviously don't help. Democrats hitting him for it.
It's good to see Donald Trump telling the truth about something.
Donald Trump has made clear that he and the Republican Party don't give a damn about the personal finances of the American people.
I don't see how he has time to think about the financial prospects of the American working class when he's spending all of his time thinking about how to enrich himself.
He's not even trying.
No.
He's just saying, it doesn't matter to me.
He's certainly not focused on the everyday costs of struggling working families.
Costs have gone up, and it's a direct result of Republican policies.
Here are the numbers. Groceries, gas, energy prices, regular consumer goods are all up. 59% of Americans view the economy as getting worse. And a whopping 3/4 of the country blames Trump, 77%. I mean, that is just an overwhelming show of unity in our divided times that this is Trump's fault as inflation ticks up near 4%, a 3-year high. Here's how it's playing on Fox.
Food prices, grocery prices, core inflation, those numbers are up.
We are now deeper in the red. Markets do not like what they're seeing.
This is pretty devastating, actually.
Now, you might expect any politician in any party in any decade to say, I hear you, we're working on it, I'm thinking about it, I feel your pain, yada, yada, yada. The phrases sort of write themselves, right? But Donald Trump has this problem where he often does blurt things that are true. The Washington Post said he's been caught in more lies than any other public official ever. So he does lie a lot, but then he blurts things that are true. You heard the Democrats there saying this is true. He doesn't think about it. He doesn't care. And Republicans have a problem at a time where they don't want to be tied to that. And they've been asked about this gaffe.
The president thinks about Americans' financial situation.
Every time I talk to him, he's focused on affordability.
I didn't see that.
He's got a lot on his plate, including the war.
When we get the Strait of Hormuz reopened, that will alleviate a lot of pressure with gas prices and other things in the economy.
That's the speaker's view. Here's some reporting. Iran has restored the operational access to the vast majority of its missile sites. That's 30 out of 33 if you're counting, and the New York Times did. That's a long ways from what Trump and his Pentagon were pushing, the idea that even though people are paying a lot and there's no end in sight and we got a bad situation because the strait is closed when it used to be open, at least they've obliterated a lot of Iran's weapons potential. It's not even true. I'm joined now by Reverend Al Sharpton, the host of Politics Nation and president of the National Action Network. I went through all that. It makes him look bad, but it's all true. I mean, I just went through the numbers and what he's saying and why Republicans are running from what Trump is saying. Your view tonight.
When you look at the president saying out of his own mouth that he's not caring about the financial status of Americans, while he was headed to China with his billionaire buddies as his friends going with him to cut whatever deal that is there, that the purpose of them going. I mean, you have to stop and ask yourself now, I don't care. I'm not concerned with America's finances, but I am concerned about Elon Musk and the 2 or 3 other billionaires that I'm going to bring with me that need to get their deals straight with China. So how contemptible is that to the American people? He didn't just say this now at some backward rally somewhere. He said this on his way to hook up with his billionaire boys and board Air Force One that we're paying for to go over to China to try and work out some energy deals, some technology deals, and all. Otherwise, there's no reason for them to be there. If any other president had done this, he would be the first one calling for their impeachment. This is like spitting in the face of Americans. It's bad enough you're rolling up the gas stations and the price is $4.50 up. It's bad enough groceries are up. But now you have the guy you voted for, if you're in a red state or if you're a member of MAGA, saying, I'm not thinking about you. Come on, Elon, come on. I'm going to get these. Let's talk to Xi about getting some of this business straight. And he's saying it out loud.
You know, we've talked, and you've lived a career that looks at the slow march of public opinion on civil rights, marriage equality. It can take decades. What does it tell you when we look at $29 billion for this war and the gas reaction, that in a matter of weeks, people went from skeptical concern, I mean, nobody was welcoming it, to now just a country, including Tucker and the folks I mentioned, just wholly against this war?
I think that what it shows is that, one, Americans are a lot wiser and a lot more informed. Second, they were overpromised by Trump in the first place. So if you're looking for, if you're a child and daddy promised you a pony and he shows up with a squirrel, you're disappointed because it's not what you were looking for. And third is because he is so blatant and open with it. We've never had a president that would openly show how he does not care about the average American, doesn't understand what they're going through, and really has no compassion for them. I think that combination cut the calendar, because you don't have someone trying to act compassionate or act like I'm getting it or act like I feel your pain. You have somebody that's saying, oh, you're hurting? Oh, well, that's too bad. I've got this deal to cut. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And I think that even the most avid fan of Donald Trump has to question themselves, and the rest of them have to say, this is not what we bargained for.
That's bull crap.
He doesn't care about our situation. He doesn't. He's just here for pride and ego. He's not lying, and he proves it. Not only that, but also like food stamps and other stuff. He does not care about our financial situation.
The fact that he said that he doesn't care about America's financial situation.
That's ridiculous. He's a pompous idiot.
You were born with a silver spoon in your mouth. Of course, the American pockets don't mean anything to you.
Americans react to Donald Trump's economy and his comments. We're back with Rev Sharpton. The question was, if we were just a different system like England, if there was a vote, would Trump even survive a no-confidence vote today?
My guess would be he wouldn't, because you have some of his major cheerleaders that would have been screaming in the House of Commons, if we're using that as the example, on his behalf, that are now screaming on the other side, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, like Tucker Carlson. But when you start seeing people in South Carolina legislators saying, well, I don't know if we can do what the president wants us to do to cut up Jim Clyburn's district. Now, we don't know where they're going to finally land, but even the fact there's a pause tells me in that kind of situation, if we had the House of Commons, he wouldn't have enough people yelling on the other side, because he has not only hurt the American public and said, I don't care. He has put a knife in the back of his own Republican fellow office holders. And he says, I don't care about y'all. I don't care how your districts end up. I don't care what you've got to try to sell in November during the midterms. I'm going to do me. And if you don't like it, I'll get up he maybe hadn't gone to bed at 1 a.m, and I'll write about you on social media, and then I'll take a nap in the next day in the middle of our meetings.
Now, Rev, they say it was an alleged nap.
Well, if it looks like a nap, it appears like a nap, and you're nodding like a nap, it's a nap.
Respect. And in my day, people who are telling you, oh, I didn't snore, I wasn't asleep. I have a family member, I'm not going to say who used to say, well, I was just resting my eyes.
Yeah, I've had that.
Yeah, here it is. Well, I was just resting my eyes, and it's like, okay, come on now.
Right. You're just resting his eyes in the middle of everything going on. And then a little nod. So, I mean, this is a president that stays up all night on social media and nods off every time during the day.
It's fair, right? You know, it's funny because you just said something very precise. We'll put it back up. We'll do it live, as your friend Bill used to say.
Right.
We're actually going to run the video again. Unlike other presidents, he posts 30, 40 times in the evening.
Right.
And we see it, and he says it's him. He doesn't deny it. So we actually know why he might be tired. To your point, he's allegedly sleeping on the job, literally, because we know that all night he was posting hate and lies. That's what kept him up instead of doing the people's business. I mean, it's quite that literal, isn't it?
That is literally what happens. You see the time of his Truth social media postings. There's no staff there. There's no one to say, Mr. President, be careful. So he enjoys doing that. It's the real Trump. This is who he really is in the middle of the night with no kind of boundaries, nobody around him. And he gives all of the venom he can all night to where he's exhausted the next day when he's taking care of things like dealing with the war in the Straits of Hormuz and all that. I'm tired.
Yeah.
I've been up all night calling people names that are my political enemies. That's my priority.
And we know why. And look, you run it back. You know everybody. I always tell folks, in New York, Rev knows everybody. You remember Nas, and famously said, "I never sleep because sleep is the cousin of death." You know, you want to stay up,
right?
Especially if you're dealing with real stuff. And apparently, he didn't get the memo.
He didn't get the memo, but I will send him some Nas. Oh, no, I don't want him to write against Nas. So let's leave it there.
Yeah, we don't need a revived Trump ether battle. I mean, Trump might have been better served to just be a battle rapper and just insult other people and just save the whole government thing. You know, that could have been a fruitful time for him.
Well, I don't know if it would have been better for him, but it certainly would have been better for us.